Wheels keep spinning to the morning light. Wheels keep spinning. Wheels keep spinning. Wheels keep spinning to the morning light. Wheels keep spinning.
Unmute yourself, beautiful people. Good morning. Welcome to LoveBabz, LoveTalk. I'm so delighted. June is Pride Month.
Yay!
Yeah! And I got two of my favorite folks from the Pride Center, Patrick and Ala. Did I say that right? Did I say it right?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
So, y'all got a big thing coming up. Y'all doing something with the Arts and Ideas Festival. Sunday is the kickoff for a day of action. Woo! All right, so tell me about that. How y'all doing? It's nice to see y'all. And congratulations on your Southern Award, Ala.
Thank you.
Yes, Allah is amazing and deserves
And my
all the awards.
Oh, yes, all the awards. I like it. Get your flowers, girl. Get your flowers.
I'm collecting them. I accept them. Thank you very much. I received this.
I love it. I love it. Hey, Patrick. So y'all tell me about this day of action, and how did you come up with it, and what do we do? I know there's a whole bunch of stuff built into it.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Babz, I love your purple hair. Do not ever change it.
Yes.
No, so the Day of Action was actually, it was born out of a program Miranda Rector, who was our women's program officer, did last June called the Week of Action, where they created a series of events kind of prompting the community to take positive action for the community during June. So it wasn't just about celebrating Pride, but it was like, how can we take tangible action around racial justice, defending trans lives, around undocumented communities. And so each day of this week was dedicated to exploring different topics. And what happened is that then we took that model and created this kind of mini conference where we jam a bazillion things into one day.
And it is.
It is. But we stick all this programming into one day and really elevate a single topic. And so we're doing 3 of these a year now. And so we did one for International Women's Day in March, this one in June, and then we're going to be doing one during Hispanic Heritage Month around undocumented communities and Latinx queer people. And so It's really about taking action, about having real conversations, because sometimes our community doesn't want to have certain conversations, particularly when it comes to things like racism, when it comes to things like unconscious bias, when it comes to things like deliberate bias, you know, all those things. And so it's really about having those kinds of conversations and really like holding the mirror up to our own community. You know, we like to look at the straight community and be like, oh, you're doing all these things wrong. But the reality is like, we're also doing a lot of things wrong. And so that's kind of the idea behind them.
Okay. So you've got 2 panels, 4 workshops, a keynote, and performances. And it's all free and it's all virtual. All right, so break it down. What can I expect? What should I check out? Can I check it all out, or
check it all out?
Pick and choose.
I would say check it all out. And there are some things as far as the workshops, I would suggest folks really go to where their heartstrings are pulled. Because the workshops are amazing. Folks will be able to at least go to 2. And the workshops are where my heart lie. The workshops in the showcase are really where my heart lie. As a participant, right? Like not as a curator. As a curator, we put our heart and soul into everything that we thought of. I really enjoyed curating this with Patrick. I really learned without knowing that I was learning until after we put it together and looking at the website. I really learned how to curate something really big and pull all the things together and make it really clear and concise and have a beginning, a middle, and an end. That feeds your mind, your soul, your body, and like all the joy that we need. So for you, Babz, if I was going to make a recommendation, I would definitely suggest that after you come to our Complexities of Black Sexuality panel.
That's going to be awesome. It's going to be so good.
Awesome. just knowing the honor that you bring to Black women in our bodies. Like I want you to be in that audience so you can be commenting and we can bring that conversation further. And then we have 4 workshops and we have 2 tracks. One track I would say is more for the beginners, for white folks who don't readily identify as Black or brown or a person of color, but who are just as radical, who want to be as radical, who are like, I'm getting this, but I'm like stuck here. We have provided 2 workshops for those folks to really investigate that and work in a small community, but with people who will be saying some of the same things that they're thinking. They're like, oh, I couldn't say it, but someone else did, and thank you. And then you get to learn and experience and grow from that. And so, and then for folks who are Black, brown, people of color, who are doing the work, activists, organizers, teachers, administrators, creatives, there's 2 workshops for those folks. And they really allows you to like, okay, like, where did I start from? How did I get here? Where's the inner me, right? Like, what can I work on? And then we have another workshop that is centered on our body and how is this stuff showing up in our body. Let me turn this on silent because it's ringing. And then we follow through with a showcase, a spoken word that has everything. I would say these artists are going to be bringing several aspects of queerness, Blackness, of what does it mean to be Black, brown, queer in this world that we're constantly feeling the burden of not belonging, even in our queer community, right? Like I'm talking about our queer with the overarching theme of that we're talking about like centering this in queer communities. Because right now this is not about outside communities. We, like Patrick said, it's easier when you're traumatized to point the finger at the person you know readily. But after you do that investigation, you can name that work. It's time to start figuring out how that shows up in us and what we're doing. And my panel that we're really looking for, my favorite panel that I'm really looking forward to is investigating how Asian
I see this.
Yes.
I mean, y'all have pulled out all the stops. You ain't leaving nobody out of this.
We're trying not to.
We've had time to think about it.
I've never seen Asian anything, let alone Asian queer conversation. So,
right.
Well, so I will say one of the reasons we're doing that conversation is, so we did last year during the week of action, we did a conversation called Addressing Racism in the Queer Community. And it had 6 different folks on it. All of them were coming from different racial demographics. And one of them was Caroline from Collab. And one of the things that Caroline said in that conversation that has stuck with me for a year was, I've never seen a lesbian Asian couple portrayed ever in media. Like an aging lesbian Asian couple. I've never seen that in movies, TV, anything. And it just like kind of like blew my mind to think about, like, this is such a level of underrepresentation that here's someone who's super interconnected, very involved in like New Haven and broadly, and has never seen themselves represented ever in popular media. And it has sat with me for a year. And so when Ala and I started the process of curating this, I don't know, like 2 months ago, like right around sometime in March, I think it was, because I think it was right after the last day of action. I was like, we got to have something about the Asian component of this, because not only is there like all the anti-Asian sentiment that's happening kind of all over the country, right? But then there is a lot of bias towards Asian people in the LGBTQ community, and particularly like Asian men are horribly fetishized in the LGBTQ community. Like, I mean, like they're probably, I would go on a limb and say they're fetishized more than any other group, which is probably a loaded statement and probably maybe not true, but it feels that way to me. And there's a lot of really awful stereotypes towards Asians within our own community. And that's even before you start breaking down into like all of the various folks that come from all over Asia, right? Like there's South Asian, there's Indian, and there, you know, and then once you start breaking that down, there's even more things that need to be broken down. So we are looking at this conversation really as a starter, because we want to continue to have these conversations. We had actually hoped to have as part of the Day of Action, Alok Menon, who is this incredible South Asian spoken word artist, to be a part of it. And it just didn't work with their schedule. So we're looking forward to like having more of these conversations around specifically combating anti-Asian sentiment and combating the stereotypes that exist within our community that really just need to be like, they're so archaic and like need to go away so bad. Like we really want to continue to tackle that as well.
And if that's not enough, you got a Muslim sister.
We do. And I have to give so much thanks to Arts and Ideas, and a special shout out to Miranda. So Miranda had not discovered is the wrong word. Miranda had kind of turned us on to Blair Imani back in like November, because I had had a conversation. I was like, I really want to do a program about like queer and Muslim. And I'd love to bring in like
a hard one. Like
it is a very like, I mean, talk about loaded conversations.
Whoa.
But I was like, and we found Blair Imani, and you know, we reached out to them, and I'll just put it out there. Their speaking fee was way beyond our means, like way beyond our means. There was no way that we could afford their speaking fee. And we've, over the last like 9 months, been having conversations with them. We've been able to negotiate her down. And Arts and Ideas really actually gave us the extra capital to be able to specifically have that conversation, which I think is so vital. Blair is an incredible speaker.
For a lot of
and we have, I mean, we have our own queer Black Muslims here in New Haven, right? Like Salwa, look at Salwa, I mean, like there's so many people in our community here that are going to be so, I think, empowered by this conversation. There's so few conversations about queer identity and the way it intersects with Islam. And I think I'm really, really excited that we were able to make that happen. It was like 3 months of biting our nails and going back and forth with their people and trying to make it all work. But in the end, we were able to do it. And the best part is people can enjoy all of this for free. Like there's not going to be some weird ticket that they have to pay or anything like that. It really makes the programming as accessible as possible.
Wow. I mean, this is probably one of the most highly anticipated parts of this festival that people are looking forward to, because I've never, ever, ever seen anything centered this way. I mean, I've seen, you know, queer people, and I've seen, you know, bits of, you know what, like not a whole thing, but a little bit here, a little bit there. This is a whole, I mean, and you didn't lose any, and you tried to grab everybody, which is unbelievable.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. Well, and I have to give so much props to Allah, because when we were doing this programming, particularly the workshops piece, we were trying to be really intentional. Like, how can we create this environment that like speaks to both, you know, Black and Brown and BIPOC organizers, people who desperately need healing spaces because they're out doing the work on the street every day, and creating spaces for people who often have to choose between their Blackness and their queerness, because like that's a real thing, right? And very real. And so how do we create spaces for them, but also make sure we're bringing along everybody else to have a similar experience, so that they can walk away from the day feeling like better prepared to go out into the world, better like armed with better language, walking, you know, ready to go into spaces and be their authentic selves, but not in a way that is based in, you know, rooted in white supremacy and patriarchy and any of the other biases that we all carry with us. So I just want to give like a big snaps to Allah, because particularly with the workshops, but overall with the day, like there was so much thought going into this entire creative process. I think, you know, we had probably 4 or 5 curatorial meetings where we were sitting and we're going through, and then Elizabeth Nearing, like, you know, engaging her and being like, hey, Elizabeth, you know, like, we're thinking about this workshop, like, do you have any ideas? Or we're thinking about doing this talk. Are there any ideas? You know, and so it was a really cool collaborative process, but I just want to give shout outs and snaps to Allah.
And Thank you. And you built in so that when you can, you know, all this is heavy lifting, but you built in a self-care piece too. So that people can if they want to get some of that so that they don't feel like this heaviness is with them. And not to say that it's going to be terribly heavy, but this is a lot. You built in some self-care. Like you built in, you know, let's have some a conversation around self-care so people take care of themselves.
Well, and that's for me, I think that's one of the reasons why we built in the art piece too. You know, like the starting with the kind of, we did this with the March one where we start with this kind of like holistic welcome that has an artistic component, and then we end the day with, you know, in spoken word, there's, I'm sure, going to be moments that are going to be serious, right? But overall, you're having an artistic experience. You're hopefully feeling uplifted, so after you've done all this hard work, you have that kind of like relax, enjoy, like have your soul fed by some art. But anyway, sorry, I keep interrupting you.
No, that's fine. That's fine. You always say the thing that I was going to say because teamwork, right? But no, I think that, so everything that I've since I've like stepped into curation through the Pride Center, like that's why I say the Pride Center saved my life as a creative and a queer anti-racist organizer in the state of Connecticut. I get to like do what this day of action looks like is if I could organize full-time with an unlimited budget with a staff. After we had a big action in the streets and we take over the streets and take over the highway, this is what we would have to use to decompress, to do the work, to talk about the things that we talk about, that folks are on the bullhorns talking about, that we see on the posters. And also, as a person, I get to fangirl. Like when I curate, I realize that if I don't fangirl, then it's not gonna be, and I'm really holistic. So I need the heart, I need the joy, I need everything. I need to feel like I had an experience. And we want folks to understand that this is the work that the Pride Center does all the time. We put it in a snapshot for folks in a day, for folks who maybe are not queer or who are queer and we're wondering, well, I heard that we're doing some stuff, but is this really for me? And this is a space that we can we're inviting non-queer folks in to be in community with us, but to know that queer identities are centered here. And most importantly, even the more maligned identities of queerness are centered here. And that's why we made sure that the expertise that are sharing, whether it's via panelists or via workshop or via creatives in the spoken word entity or our guest note speaker, they still skirt what we like. This is what a queer lesbian looks like, right? But not really, right? Like this is what a non-binary person looks like, but we're just showing you that this expert still skirts that line, and we really want the overarching theme to not only can you activate and heal, but we have to really let go in our queer communities this binariness that really is allowing such silos and harm to happen in our queer community.
Because what you want to get across is however way you identify, however way you show up, you belong. And you don't have to choose or excuse or make excuses. I think that's a wonderful message, because I think, and I've seen it in the queer community where they want people to choose. Sometimes I've seen it where they want people to choose. Like you can't be bi and you can't be this and you have to be whatever. And I'm glad to see this day come where people are saying, you know, you can be whatever, however way you show up, however way there are different people. There are different ways that people could show up and be their authentic selves.
Well, and that's where I'm really excited about the Black sexuality panel, because I think this is going to be one of the first times I think that the center is really kind of approaching a topic very, very holistically in a way that I think I the only other place I would say we've really done this is the Black feminism conversations that I've been doing. But really the panel of people who are going to be speaking, and we were this close to having like a person join the panel who was going to join anonymously to speak from the DL community as someone like who engages in sexual interactions with the queer community, but does not personally self-identify that way. And, you know, it was going to be like this panel is going to just, I feel like, really open conversations that need to be happening in the LGBTQ community. Because the reality, it isn't just Black queer people who have complex sexualities. Like everybody has a complex sexuality. But the reality is that we almost never have conversations like this, if ever. Like I would go on a limb and say, like, this kind of a conversation doesn't happen generally, and it definitely never happens.
In public.
Not in public. Like it happens behind closed doors in a salon with like 3 people sitting around with like 6 bottles of wine or something, right?
Yes.
And the people who we have on this panel are all coming to the table from very different perspectives too. Like we have folks who identify as sexually fluid. We have folks who identify as gender queer. And, you know, a lot of those kinds of terms are often put on white queer people and used in white queer circles, but the reality is that they exist maybe even more complexly in every circle. And so having some of these people together on this panel, I think it's just going to be, I feel like at the end of that hour, we're going to be like, wait, we can't stop. We got to keep going.
Right. I find that this is going to be enough. You know how I am about series. And so, and you know, I want to say that for me, as a Black person, a Black queer person, I would say this panel for me selfishly is trying to start the work of normalizing sexuality, and having that conversation. But I need to have it with Black folks because we have the Black stuff to worry about, and our queer community, just like I feel like anyone who's not white is fetishized for some kind of stereotype in all communities, but I'm not in the other communities, I'm in the queer community, right? And so that is what we want to do. But on the other side of that fetishization is this prudeness, and like you can't be sexual, and if you're sexual, then you're promiscuous, and those things are different, and oftentimes responses to the only places that we can get in and fit in as people who are not white, whatever we identify. So that panel is we're trying to touch on a little bit of all of that, but we're naming that in just who we sat on the panel. And that provides for a very rich conversation.
Very interesting what you just raised, because, you know, I watched the Bachelor, right? The woman, and she's a white woman, and they keep calling her prosexual. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. Well, it means that she's comfortable having sex with however way she wants to have sex with whomever she wants to have sex. And I swear to you, no one would ever put that on a Black woman. Like no Black woman would be able to say that anywhere. I don't even think queer sisters could really say that without a whole lot of baggage that would
shaming.
Shaming. That's the word I want. A whole bunch of shaming. I mean, you would be a whore,
a skeezer. It depending on what them age demographic you're coming from.
I was like, what?
But and you know the flip side of that is we don't need another name for it. It just needs to be that normalizing, and the fact that folks should be free to have sex and be sexual and be a sexual person without needing to have another narrative or another name on that. That should just be normalized into what it means to be human, as everyone has sex. Almost everyone has sex, because if not, we wouldn't be here. Right. And so there's someone who has to do it.
I think sometimes we got to remind people of that.
Someone had to do it. And it shouldn't just be that the only reason why sex is okay is in order to procreate, because that means for queer folks, that means for us, there's always an underlining narrative that what we're doing and being who we are with people isn't right, because it can't make a baby. And we know that actually is not true.
Infertile. Right. What does that say to infertile women? I mean, I'm one of these women that
that's what I've
have a baby.
That's always been my argument when certain conservatives bring up this idea of like marriage is for procreation. I'm like, well, so then what are you saying about like maybe somebody who's 75 and getting married for the second time because their first partner died. Like, are you saying that they shouldn't be allowed to get married? Are you saying a woman who was born infertile because of no, like nothing that she did, right? It's just her biology doesn't want her to have children, right? Like, that's why this like whole idea of all of this like quantifying of relationships through this idea of procreation is like ridiculous.
Right.
Also,
right.
if that is going to be our guiding principle, then a question on the thing you fill out to get your marriage is, are you going to have children, and do you commit to having them in the 2 years after you get married? And every straight person should be held to that standard.
Right. So y'all tell me, as we wrap this up a little bit, because I don't want to take up all your time, but I'm grateful that you're here. What do y'all hope for this? On the other side of this, what do you hope people will take away from your day of action on Sunday, June 12th? Is it June 12th?
13th.
June 13th. What do you hope people take away from that day? What do you want people to get and understand and feel about this day of action?
I'll let you go first.
Okay.
I see she's thinking.
Yes, I think I would say, kind of selfishly, I would want folks to get, who are not familiar with the Pride Center and the work that we do, and the space that we hold in our community. I would want folks walking away, stalking our YouTube pages, going back and looking over the old work that we have done, and really figuring out a way that, especially if they're queer or have queer children, or their partner is queer, or have a queer family member, and they want to be a better person for them, with them, however, whatever, adjective or verb or whatever it is that they need to do, knowing that we have a resource for them here at the Pride Center. And we do everything from trainings to what we did at the Day of Action. And for the queer folks who are joining because they need that space, I want them to walk away feeling, even for just the rest of that day, and hopefully maybe Monday, maybe they can go into Monday really feeling seen and heard, and I hate to say it, but even understood just a little bit. As a Black queer woman who doesn't fit always into what queerness looks like for me, or Blackness, or what it means to be a woman, whenever I can feel understood and go into another space and someone else, and I'm like, oh, you too? I feel like invigorated for a couple of days, because I don't feel so alone anymore.
So we're going to take a hot second for the station identification.
Hi, this is Babz Rawls-Ivy from New Haven, Connecticut, and you're listening to WNHHLP 103.5 FM, streaming live at newhavenindependent.org.
Thank you.
Oh, okay, Babz, can you call me in the morning and wake me up with that voice? I know. Wow, wake up. This is Babz. It's time to get your day started. I would have a productive day and be smiling every day. Just call me.
I think, Babz, you need to make an app. Like, make an app and all of us can download.
The Babz app. Oh my gosh, can you imagine?
I'm so into it.
Yeah, until you're not, right? Like, you're like, oh, I hate that bitch.
Never. That would never happen.
Shut up. No. All right, so Patrick, tell me, before I let y'all go, so what do you hope? Because, you're the executive director, and, at the end of the day, no matter how talented your team is, this falls on your shoulders, and the criticism will come your way, or the accolades, criticism will come your way. So what do you hope people take away from this?
I guess for me, and this is true for really any of our programs, for me, what I'm always hoping that people will take away is an element of what Allah is talking about, that people feel seen, that we, the Pride Center, are combating the narrative that the only narrative exists is a white cisgendered gay male or white cisgendered lesbian storyline, right? Like, so first and foremost, wanting to always try to combat the idea that a queer story is only told if it looks a certain way, loves a certain way, is heteronormative in a certain way. So for me, like that first and foremost is always something that I want to do. I really want folks to see what we do with programs like this program and know that the center is committed to racial justice, is committed to gender equity, is committed to fighting for undocumented queer people, is committed to fighting against stigmas and isms and obias that affect every single person in our community, no matter what your racial demographics are, what your background is, what your socioeconomic background, like the reality is that all of these awful things that exist in the world, like racism and sexism and homophobia, transphobia, and biphobia, they all are rooted in the same thing. And so if we at the Pride Center can help combat sexism, can help combat racism, can help combat systematic oppressions that beat all of us down, all of us, like literally the only people not affected by systematic oppression is like 6 old white guys, right? Like everyone else is affected by this stuff.
And one of them just died, so it's like 5.
Right, but like literally, like these systems, I think it's hard sometimes for us to like acknowledge that these systems literally affect everyone, like including the white cis straight man, right? Like he is also affected by these systems. He's maybe affected differently, right? But he's also, and if we can like really open more hearts and minds and eyes to how damaging these systems are to, yes, Black and brown bodies, yes, queer bodies, yes, gender minorities, but also like showcase that the reality is they affect everyone. I think that's going to be how we really dismantle some of these systems. But in the meantime, what I want people to walk away from is know that the center is not just an ally in the fight against racism and sexism and all of the other isms and obias, but we're a comrade in the trenches with the community. That we
in these streets.
We are in the streets, and we're ready to challenge minds. We're ready to challenge hearts and really open the world to see maybe something from a new angle that they never envisioned. And, something like the Complexity of Black Sexuality panel can potentially, it has the potential to completely change someone's perspective on their own sexuality as an audience member. Not because now they're suddenly queer, right? Like, but understanding how racism and race impact their sexual orientation, impact their sexuality as even a straight person, like that is a very powerful thing. And that's what I hope will happen during the day, that when not just the queer folks that are coming are experiencing these workshops and panels and conversations and art, have that moment for themselves, but some of our peers that are straight or cisgendered have similar impacts that hopefully make them better global citizens too.
Yes.
Right. If we could just get 3 people to undo one thing and realize that, oh, wait, I probably shouldn't say that anymore, or I didn't even think about that, and that's why I'm showing up like that, and it's not even mine, that's someone else's. I could just leave that like at this Zoom and like never like have to hold that anymore. And for me, that I, as a facilitator and teacher of anti-racism and anti-bias practices, it literally happens like
it does. I mean, some of my best aha moments have been in environments where like it's not anything about me. I'm sitting and listening to another conversation, and like I've literally had those moments where just sitting and listening to like Allah talk with Juan Carlos, and I'm just an observer sitting in the space with them, listening to them talk about something that maybe doesn't have any direct impact on my life. But some of the best aha moments for me have happened in those kinds of environments, or like being able to like hear something said and then reflect on my own life and be like, oh God, 5 years ago I did that. Oh, I remember that moment, and like it's I don't know. I really like this kind of community learning experience, which is really what ultimately these panels are about. It's about coming together and learning.
I think there's a lot of parents who will get a lot out of this, because my children, I have 2 children who consider themselves fluid, whatever. Yes, know what that means, and they've shared that with their father and I. And I had to go look up pansexual. I had to go look up, I had to just go learn so that I could be a better parent, so that I wouldn't, put my own hopes, biases, or whatever on them that I wanted to learn. So I think this will help. I think a lot of people will walk away feeling like, okay, I understand this. I've got some tools. I've got some information. I'm not in the dark. I'm not by myself. What this is.
Yeah. And thank you for that, Babz, because I know a lot of Black parents, if their kids came in there telling them that they're gender fluid in any way, my mother would be like, well, you better flew your ass back out the door. Get in a cup or put yourself in a can or something so you ain't splashing all around. You fluid. What is this? She's just, and my mom she's really come around, but a lot of Black parents, and that affects our sexuality, right? It affects how we are, because we like, and I say that all the time. If I learned about other identities of queerness, I would have just, as a teenager and a young adult and in my early 20s, when I was like twisting in the wind, because I was like, I don't know what's going on, I would have had something. So thank you from a parent, from a Black parent to another parent, as a former Black child and still a Black child, Babz, thank you for that. And anyone else that's listening, if you don't know how to do what Babz did, contact New Haven Pride Center, because we will help you.
Had I known the Pride Center, I would have took my ass right there. But I have enough skill sets that I can figure out, like, okay, how can I best support their, how they want to be in the world? How can I do that? And that's really what it was for me as a parent. Just, all right, the same rules apply whoever you bring home. Like, the same rules apply. I don't care who you bring home.
Right, and that's unconditional love. That's not a skill set. That's not a skill set, Babz. That's unconditional parental love. Because there's a lot of parents that got a lot of skill sets and will never do what you did and don't plan to. And that's just that, ladies and gentlemen, and theys and thems, is what unconditional love, like how you actually do that for your queer children. That's when you use unconditional love. It's very rarely as parents that we actually have to put that unconditional love to the test, but you passed, and thank you. A plus, plus.
Yay. I did one damn thing right. Yay.
That's the biggest one too, I'm trying to tell you.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna tell them. Listen, I did that right.
Exactly. You tell them.
I understand what you mean. No, I just love them, and I want them to be who they are, and whatever, and however way I can support that, protect that, and ensure that. That's what I'm gonna do, because I want them to be healthy people. I don't want them out there killing themselves and doing things to harm themselves because they can't. I just don't want that. So. But I thank you both for coming on this morning on short notice and showing up. I'm looking forward to Sunday.
Yes.
It'll be great. Thank you, Babz, for having us. You're always an amazing person, and I adore you to pieces.
Oh, you are the best. You all are the best. So whatever I can do to help the Pride Center, consider this your home.
Yes.
Come back anytime you want. You got to share stuff, talk about stuff, get stuff out. You're welcome here. So thank you.
Thank you.
We love you.
We love you. I love you. And enjoy your day. And I can't wait to see you all out in person in these streets.
Very soon.
I know, that's right.
Very, very soon.
Dude,
I'm coming to the porch, Babz. I keep saying I'm not playing. Even though
I'm waiting. It's summer now. It's summer. Y'all know every weekend.
Babz, be careful. I will show up your house with a bottle of wine.
every day that it's warm, baby, the porch, I am on that porch. Y'all see the pictures? Come on, y'all, come on.
All right, I'm coming too.
If you don't bring anything, there's stuff here to drink. Don't worry about it.
Oh no, my mama taught me right. In Turkish culture, you show up with like 6 things of food and a bottle of wine.
Well, that's very Black culture too. So.
That's why I said same. That's why I said, see, we more alike than we ever think.
We are. Thank y'all so much. I hope y'all have a very good, productive, fun day.
You too, Babz.
Thank you.
I'll see you soon.
Bye.
Harry, where you at? That was such a fun conversation. PrideCenter.org. Go and NewHavenPrideCenter.org. Go and check out all the things for Day of Action. It's Sunday. So parts of the Arts and Ideas Festival.
That is an interesting conversation, because for a person like me, who just doesn't care, right? So I don't care what you claim you are, or I just don't care, right? So I think that comes off as I don't care.
Disapproval.
Disapproval, but it's not nothing like that.
No.
I just don't care.
I was like, no, I don't disapprove.
Yeah, I don't.
No, I don't care.
I just don't care. But it's like my daughter had gender fluid friends, right?
Yeah.
And I used to tell her friends her friends are just sexually greedy.
They want it all.
Yeah, they just want it all.
They want it all. Like, why should I settle for this if I can have it all?
I told her, your friend's just like the sex buffet. But it was, and I always had relationships with all of my kids' friends. So it's not that I don't care. Of course, if you're in my life, I'll show you some care, but other than that, it's just like
you don't hold what they are against them. You don't judge them. That's not what you're saying. That's not who you are.
Right. And the worst thing,
that's the least of what I think about you. Like,
we have our guests waiting, but the thing that I hate the most, and I've seen it, especially in the LGBTQ community, is I see a lot of sad people sometimes, from lack of acceptance and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that's what I worry about, that people are going to think I don't accept anything, but it's never that.
Yeah.
I'm just Harry.
Woo! All right. So Andy is up next, right? Andy is coming on.
And we're going to start a new stream for that. So we'll be right back. Once again, you're listening to LoveBabz, LoveTalk at WNHH-LP 103.5, your home for community radio.
We are rocking this Friday. Woo!
Well, it's LoveBabz, LoveTalk.